And what is up, everyone? I am joejdh. I am host of Beyond the Woodline. Before we get started, a couple things I'd like to go over and talk to you guys about. For those of you guys who don't know, I am the executive director for a Bigfoot research group called the Jevning Research Group, which is the JRG. Uh, Will Jevning is very well known in the Bigfoot world. Very few people don't know who he is. But yeah, I'm part of his team, and uh, I help him run the team and run the organization and help him with uh, kind of getting people together for them and finding witnesses and keeping the teams, updated. And like tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we're having like a little online roundtable. It'll just be us. It won't be live or anything, but some of the stuff that we like to do. We like to go over what's going on in our areas or our territory, if you will. Um, we've got teams in Ohio, Michigan, Florida, California, Oregon, Maine, Oklahoma. I think I may have said Oklahoma already, but of course here in Texas. So if you guys have any Bigfoot encounters or Bigfoot experiences, and or if you're having activity on your property and you want to talk to somebody, man, let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you, help you out any way we can. We're definitely not the type of people to go out to your property and just stir up a bunch of activity. We'll definitely want to sit back and observe and uh, take that approach rather than be too aggressive. And because we get to go home and you guys got to stay on that property, and that's not always a good thing. But yeah, and then we also have eyewitness forums. You can fill out a form and talk about your experience or your encounter, your sighting, and um, and if you want to join the team, man, let us know. You can hit me up directly at beyond.woodline@gmail.com. We'll talk and we'll see where we can fit you in. And you don't have to go out into the field and do research. You can do research from behind your computer. That helps us out a lot, by finding areas, by finding witnesses, finding the history of a place to see if it's had encounters before. So if you're interested, man, hit me up. I'd love to talk to you. And with all that being said, tonight I have with me the bearded weirdo, Jason Boyd. How you doing, Jason? I was calling you Jason Bourne.
Hey, I've been called worse, so
There you go, man. So how you doing, buddy?
hey, not too bad. It's funny you mentioned the whole Bigfoot thing, and in a movie I was in, I actually played a Bigfoot character. So um, it's up for debate. A lot of people would say I probably didn't even need a costume. I could just kind of roam around as is, and probably
Yeah,
get mistaken for a Bigfoot. But
right. Yeah.
it's something funny. I mean, I'm fascinated with the whole cryptozoology thing. Like, I think it's like fascinating that there could be missing links or monsters or something, out there. And so it's funny. I read somewhere, a friend of mine got me on a rabbit hole with the whole, cryptozoology. And apparently there's supposedly somewhere in Eastern Kentucky, I guess like a missing link, Bigfoot type creature that supposedly lurks in a cave somewhere.
Okay.
It's completely white, and
Oh,
it's described as like a Bigfoot. I've always been fascinated. Like, I always want to check that area out. So I'm gonna have to recruit you guys to, maybe go with me or something.
yeah. Well,
Um,
Kentucky's an active area. It definitely has a lot of activity there. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we got a lot of strange things around here and stuff. Like I said, that being one of them. And I don't know if we have quite the cool lore that, like the Spring Hill Jack or New Jersey Devil or any of the rest of those, but hey, we try.
Yeah,
So
and well, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because there's areas all over the country that have their own little mascot monster, if you want to call it that. Because you look at like I said, the Jersey Devil, you've got the Beast of Bray Road. Um, what else is? Oh, like here, right outside of San Antonio, is a place called Converse, Texas, and they have the Converse Werewolf. So yeah, there's a lot of places all over the country that has their little mascot. The Midway Monster was one of them also. That was outside of like a dirt racetrack, and they called it that because they would come out to the wood line and watch the races, and people speculated that he would just kind of hang out until the people went home to go dig through the garbage or something.
I yeah, I mean, I was a kid. I was always fascinated with with that kind of stuff, and I studied a lot of, like I said, like the Spring Hill Jack thing, and Chupacabra, and Skinwalkers, which I think is more like New Mexico, Texas area, I think, Arizona,
Utah, Utah, yeah,
the
yeah,
Native American,
yeah,
I guess the equivalent of Native American werewolf, I guess you'd say. I've always been fascinated by that kind of stuff. So, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I've always planned on, I always want to make a trip to this area. Like I said, it's some kind of a cave or something somewhere. And supposedly there's like, they've seen some long hair. It's, I guess, white in color, almost, it kind of reminds me of like I guess what you would describe like a Wendigo looking like.
Okay, okay.
So I don't know if it has the same, you know, uh, background as the Wendigo, or if it eats people, or I don't know. But I think it's fascinating. I mean, I would love to be able to check that out
Yeah,
and see.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and and white Bigfoots aren't uncommon. It's not an uncommon. It's not an uncommon color. They're seen quite a bit actually. And you mentioned dressing up as a Bigfoot. Do you remember the movie The Boggy Creek, The Legend of Boggy Creek?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the guy who played Bigfoot was a gentleman named Keith Crabtree. So in the movie, it's centered around two families, which was the Crabtrees and the Fords. And Keith Crabtree was one of the family members. He played the Bigfoot. He's a big dude. He's a big old guy. He's still big to this day. He's older, of course, but he's still a big old guy. But just a big gentle giant. One of the best guys you'll ever meet. Um,
Yeah, it definitely takes skill to try to operate a Bigfoot suit. I know this was like, I think August, I believe, was when we started filming, which is like around here is like the hottest part of the year. Humidity's so thick you can cut it with a knife, and I mean, I'm the type of person, I could sweat. Like, it could be 10 degrees outside and I would sweat. Like, I would find a way to sweat.
right.
And so, wearing this suit and everything, and we're in a cornfield on top of that,
Oh,
and so I'm trying to like run with oversized feet, and trying to run in this, like, basically it's like wearing a gigantic carpet suit. And yeah, how I didn't get heat exhaustion from that, I don't know. So I have to say kudos to people that can wear Bigfoot suits, especially when it's like unbearably hot outside. I mean, it's just it's that's something I would probably care to do again if I could get away with it, or at least maybe make it some kind of like air conditioned or something.
yeah. Plug a hose up to it. I've heard people doing that, right? They plug
Yeah.
like yeah.
No,
What's funny
we
too?
had a very limited budget on that one, so we kind of improvised. It was like, hey, um, just take off running, and when we say cut, take the the cowl and the mask off and everything. Take a breath. I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
so
You,
that's
you,
just
you,
stunt man work, I guess. But
you know what else is funny too? I was talking to a gentleman. He was in the military, and when the whole Bosnia conflict was going on, they had a guy who was in special forces, like 6'5", 6'6", dressed up in a Bigfoot costume. And when the enemy was coming down the road. He walks out across, and the soldiers get out, and they like leave their weapons in the truck to go and check out what walked across, and then they didn't like kill him, but they surrounded them and captured all those guys. It was pretty funny.
yeah, yeah, and you leave up special forces to come up with something creative like that. So
Yeah, yeah. So what got you into this particular genre?
so um, my mom, whether she wants to admit it or not, she likes horror movies, and I think her thing is mostly she likes novels and things. She read like the original Halloween, the original Jaws and stuff on in a book format, and um, so my uncle was really big into horror movies, and like he was this is back in the days like VHS, so this is like the early '80s, and so one of the big things was when VHS came out, the players were like incredibly expensive, so my uncle would rent one, and he would rent like 6 or 8 horror movies and stuff. And I was around 5 years old, and I first watched Creep Show, which what really got me
Yeah,
into it. And it was awesome. I mean, it was like just, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of was the weird kid. Like I like stuff like Pee Wee's Playhouse, growing up, and
mhm,
Captain Kangaroo and things like that. But then, you know, and then it was like I was into horror. Like, I saw a Creep Show and I was like, okay, I love this. And so as I got a little bit older, my uncle started introducing me to more, to more films. And I would say my true love is probably zombie movies. And I was around, I think, 8 years old, and I watched Night of the Living Dead for the first time. And that movie scared the absolute crap out of me because well, I mean, the house we lived in, the living room was basically floor to ceiling windows, and they were like all the way around one side. So it's like I'm like freaking out, thinking, "Oh my god, if this actually happens, like, how are we going to board up the windows?" Like, you can't, because it's like they're just window, like just floor to ceiling windows, and zombies can just walk right through them. The imaginations of a kid, But my dad and I, we snuck up on a school night and watched it and stuff, and like, yeah, it just scared the crap out of me. But at the same time, I fell in love with like the Romero universe, and one of my goals as far as in film, I would love to be able to shoot a zombie movie one day, or at least be in it. So I keep hope alive that might happen. But yeah, I grew up reading monster magazines and making masks and just doing Halloween stuff. Like, Halloween's like my favorite time of year, always really has been.
Right.
And my mom and I would come up with these like creative costumes, and like I would do like Dracula and like the Wolfman and zombies. Like I did I think a Jason. I did my first Roy Burns imposter Jason. Like, I think I was probably maybe 10, I guess. No, 9, because I was in 4th grade, and so one of my friends went trick or treating with me. Of course, all the people were like, "Oh my god, it's Jason!" And he's like, "Dude, how do they know your name? You got a mask on." And I'm like that's the character's name is Jason. So
Oh shit! I didn't even get that myself. I was like,
he
"Who did
was, yeah, he's a little bit slow. He wasn't into horror movies, obviously. So I guess
that?"
that's probably why he didn't catch the reference that my name is Jason and the character from Friday the 13th is named Jason. So we thought maybe he was just pulling our leg, but no, he was actually genuinely sincere. He's like, "I don't know how they know it's you." I was like, "Well, at the same time, I was the only person, like, I was the only kid that actually dressed up like horror movie characters, because most of them back in the 80s, you had like G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, So then you have this weird kid that's dressed like a werewolf, or Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, and it was a blast. And I would make little props, and like I said, I'd sit in my room and read horror magazines, Fangoria, the famous monsters, and I would always look at the magazines and look at the characters and the actors, and I'm like, I would love to do this, which incidentally got me into doing making the masks and doing the props and things, learning how to make fake blood and how to do squibs, and doing the famous throat cut with the pump where the blood's like squirting out and everything, severed fingers, and yeah, I just loved it. And my goal was, I always loved like Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr. and Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. So I was always wanting to to be like the next like Boris Karloff or Bela Lugosi. And and what was funny is, because back then they were typecast, or they were afraid to be typecast as horror characters.
Right.
Where me, I would love to be typecast as a horror character. Like, I would love to be like, a mainstay in the horror industry. So, but I keep hope alive. Maybe that one day that'll happen. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's one. Like, I've got these posters printed back here behind me, but that's also like on this side. That's what I want to get. I want to get like the old, the Wolfman and Frankenstein and Dracula. I want to put that on this side over here, because those are like my favorite characters from back, way back then. Uh,
well,
and
my grandmother actually told me that she remembers going to the theaters back in the day and watching Frankenstein, and how terrifying that was. Because I mean, we look at it now, and it's like, it's not scary. It's black and white. It's like, the obviously the production values weren't there back, at that time compared to what we have now. But back then, that scared them, like just scared them to death. And my grandmother actually told me that some of her and her friends went to see Frankenstein in the theater, which I'm totally jealous about,
Right.
and said that they were going home, and there was this like really tall dude that used to, he was, I guess he worked in the area somewhere, and so they were walking home, and like in the alleyway, there was like this big, long, like tall shadow, like lumbering towards them. And of course, they were freaking out, thinking, it's Frankenstein's monster. And come to find out, it was just this poor guy, and he's got like all these girls screaming at him and everything, thinking, he's, coming to take him and throw him in a lake somewhere, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that was, that's a story I never get tired of my grandmother telling me. So that was just awesome. She actually had the experience to see that in the theater.
Right. So, what do you think it is about the horror genre that really attracts people? And like you were saying, like even uh, the older movies, they didn't have a lot of production value, but they were still they still drew people in, especially like the hardcore fans. They can't get enough of that. And I'll even go as far to say some of these movies are even cheesy to an extent, and I don't mean that in a bad way, you know. But like the horror genre, the people that are in that, they love that stuff. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, and really, no, and I agree with you about the cheesy part. No, it's like I like bad movies, like and it's funny because my friends were like, dude, you watch some like really weird crap, like stuff like that I've never heard of or would never think to watch, and but growing up, we obviously we didn't have cable, so well, cable existed, we just didn't have it because we lived out in the middle of nowhere. And so we have these like UHF stations that like on Saturday nights would show these old monster movies and stuff. And I would watch like really obscure movies just because I guess maybe they were public domain or I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they showed these particular ones, but it was just like really strange, And I'm like, I like these. Like they're bad, they're terrible, but I like them, And and that's a discussion that I've had with friends of mine is like, what draws people to horror? Is it the fantasy aspect of it? Is it the just like I guess the fear aspect of it? Being afraid. I think it's and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe more be sort of a comparison to like adrenaline junkies. You got people that like to jump out of planes and like to drive fast, and gets the adrenaline, gets the heart racing and things. And I kind of compared a little bit to that because if you're like really like scared of these kind of things, like you face your fears. But me, I just like I said, I was always fascinated with just like the fantasy aspect of it. Like you got people turning into werewolves and vampire lore and um, the post-apocalyptic zombie movies and things. And it's like it's just so awesome that the imagination that like Clive Barker, some of the stuff that he's come up with, and Toby Hooper and John Carpenter. It's like these guys were like, in my opinion, were pioneers in like slasher and alien and type industry. And honestly, a lot of people say, what movie like really disturbs you? Like me personally, I'm like, well, I've watched like I mean thousands upon thousands of horror movies, and I would say probably Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably one that I would say is disturbing just because something like that could exist. I mean, I know he's loosely based off Ed Gein, but you don't know. I mean, there could be some crazy dude wearing a mask made of human flesh that could cut you up with a chainsaw at a moment's notice. So and that to me is scary because I mean you got to think about Jason Voorhees, 6'5", indestructible killing machine. Yeah, okay, well that's fine, dandy, but Leatherface is real, and I mean like something like him could exist. So yeah, I mean I generally try to stay away from like old country roads and stuff that that the redneck gas station attendants like, yeah, you better stay away from that. So or like Wrong Turn, those movies kind of frighten me just because again, Kentucky's got a lot of rural areas and stuff out there, and I've ran into some crazy stuff. And like when I worked for like cable television, I ran into a lot of crazy stuff out there, just stuff that I'm like is this real? Like, or somebody was just messing with me? Like, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I get you about those crazy little backcountry roads, and we've got lost in Arkansas in the middle of nowhere, going down some road. It was a dirt road. It was raining. We're like, holy shit! And the GPS was telling us there was a hotel in there. I'm like, there ain't no damn hotel out here where we're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I remember one time I was going to I had a it's back when I was working on gate operators and things is what it was, and I went to this little town outside of Louisville, and the GPS or the coordinates that it had said, go down here. There's a building. You go back this road, and then there's the gate is back there. And I'm like, okay. So I'm driving along. I see this little building. I see an opening. I'm like, okay, this must be it. So I take off driving down through there, and I'm driving back there, and like, okay, I'm like, I don't see a gate, just yet. Well, then, so I stopped, and I pull out, my map and everything. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm at, and well, then like three or four of these good old boys show up, like really like wrong turn looking, like you could definitely tell there was some, they kept that in the family, and yeah, they come out pulling guns on me, and they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, hey, I'm just here to fix the gate. Like, I don't want no trouble. Don't want no, don't want anything. But that was probably the most scared I've ever been in my life because these guys, it was deliverance, like total deliverance back there.
Right.
And come to find out, the road I needed was the next one down. But I didn't know that, and I'm thinking, my God, I'm going to be in a real life horror movie here. I'm going to get like tied up and raped and God knows what else, So that was scary, and I think that's kind of where I kind of made the realization that like I mean, obviously wrong turns a stretch, but like the hills have eyes and stuff like that. I mean, like you don't know what you're going to run into. Like, I mean, there could be some inbred cannibals out there somewhere,
Well,
So
it's what like I tell everyone. I'm not worried about when I get into the woods if I'm running into a hog or a fox, a coyote, or even a Bigfoot. Right? I'm more worried about the people that I run into. You know,
right. I
those
mean,
are,
because you don't know like I mean, with animals, there's deterrence, and most of the time, animals generally are pretty chill. Like they'll avoid you if you avoid them. You don't antagonize them. People, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, it's like you don't know what they're capable of. You don't know what they're going to do.
right.
Do they have traps set out there for you? I mean, are they going to take you and torture you and do some crazy stuff? I mean, they're going to cut your face off and wear it as a mask. You don't know.
Yeah, and
And
I think that's why like Texas Chainsaw Massacre did so well, and Saw when you add the human element rather than a supernatural element. You know, uh, because it's a person. It's people doing this to another. It's one person doing this to another person. And
right, and my paranormal friends, they talk about like the ghost aspect, and I'm like, it's not the dead that I fear, it's the living I fear. I mean, if I'm going to be afraid of something doing something to me, it's going to be a human. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't fear the bear or a wolf out there, but like I said again, you can usually deter them from if you have like a firearm or something that you can kind of fire it in the air just to startle them, get them away from you. But some humans don't care. Like you can point a gun at them, they just come right out after you. And and you throw drugs into the mix. If they're on some kind of bath salts or whatever designer drug is out there now, it makes things 10 times worse.
yeah, or if they have their own growing field or their own meth lab out there, yeah, they don't want that
Well,
stuff to be given up.
which is exactly what I think happened with this when I went back to that one road. They were hiding something back there because they could have showed up and like, hey, are you looking for so and so's place? It's next road down. I've been like, thanks, been on my way. And the fact these guys like, like licking their lips and pulling guns out, and like I was like, okay, so there's something going on here. I don't want no part of it. I'm a bounce. I didn't see nothing. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I find myself, I'm drawn to like old atomic age stuff. Like I like the aesthetics of, like the 1950s, like 40s, 50s type era of horror movies, and where you fight giant, they fight giant praying menaces, and like these dudes that are atomic powered. They've got superhuman strength and durability and stuff because they've been exposed to radiation. Like that stuff fascinates me too. I mean, just looking at comparison to how how horror movies are now versus then. But then upon watching some of these movies, like I could see where a lot of modern films have taken cues from these older horror movies. And I didn't even realize that there's actually modern horror movies that have taken, I guess, plots from like Twilight Zone, the old Twilight Zone. And like, because Chucky's loosely based on Talking Tina, about a killer doll, and there was there was a movie about a robot, a boxing robot that came out. Chappie,
Real Steel,
or
Real Steel.
Yeah, that's based on an old Twilight Zone episode about it's in the future. Boxing has been outlawed, like fighting, and like it's been outlawed. So the only way they can actually get that, I guess, that barbaric sensation, they have robots that do the fighting, and it's about these two guys that are down on their luck, and they've got an older model robot that they're it's piecemeal together. It's barely working. So the guy actually gets the bright idea that he's going to act like the robot and get into the ring and fight a robot. So it's, and then there's one that's loosely I guess the Poltergeist movies are based off of. It's about a little girl that her parents wake up one day and she's gone. They can hear her voice, but she's gone. And somehow a portal to the other side opened up in her room, and she was transported like to, I guess like another dimension, or heaven. I don't know exactly. It doesn't really clarify, but I'm like, wow, like I didn't realize, all this time I thought these movies were like originals, but I'm like looking back, I'm like, well, no, that wasn't really an original idea. That was kind of done before. And there was like Universal Soldier, for instance. Like I like Universal Soldier. It's one of my, I guess you'd say, a science fiction film. But there's a movie, one of my favorite old movies is called The Creature with the Atom Brain. And the premise is almost identical. Like this guy's a mafia, like lieutenant or something that gets like framed and sent upriver, and so he gets out and he works with this German scientist to create these atomic supermen, basically. But they have to be recharged. They have to be cooled down like an actual like nuclear reactor. And at the end of the movie, there's the police are shooting them, and they're like, the bullets are just like bouncing off of them, and they're throwing grenades at them and everything, and it's just like, but they finally, the batteries wear down, and the guys just shut down and fall. They fall to their feet, or to their knees, and I'm like, wow, that's Universal Soldier. Like they basically ripped off this entire idea.
Yeah. Charles Rudd asked, come on now, where did you go, Charles? Let me see. Is this you, Charles? He had a question. He was asking about, he goes, hey guys, what about the movie Hostel? I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of goes. Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. And I think it kind of touches on a few different aspects of the horror scene, because you have the Saw-like approach. They have torture, and which they basically torture and mutilate people for other people's pleasure. And and the big fear these days, like the sex trafficking, like females being abducted, and
I think I know what the movie is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same premise. These people go to this hostel and they get abducted, and they are tortured and murdered and things. So yeah, no, that's a very good. I'm embarrassed to say that completely slipped my mind, but no, that's a great movie, and it also is very, very scary, very possible thing that could happen. I mean, um, which I think hostels are more, I think they common in Europe. I mean, obviously you're not going to go to a Holiday Inn and get, get,
Well, you don't know.
yeah, torture porn there. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but, yeah, no, I mean, that would be scary to be on vacation, and you're minding your own, going, just seeing the sights and things. You stay at a shady little hostel somewhere, and then next thing you know, you're waking up, on a table and, getting, under a pendulum or something crazy.
You know what's weird? You just mentioned that too, and um, some friends that I know went to Mexico, right? And like I don't even go there anymore, right? But they went down there and they took a wrong damn turn and got kidnapped by cartels. Luckily, they let them go after a day or two. But yeah, they got lucky. Cartels.
I've read several stories about that. That's really scary. I mean, I think, I think once I guess the cartels, I guess I'm assuming background checks of some sort. And I guess if they realize they're not, like the federales or, ATF or
Right,
whoever, I guess they realize, okay, these people are just tourists. They're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But yeah, gosh, I mean, that would be scary. I mean, if you think about it, you're just kind of, like I said, you're minding your own business. And then next thing you know, you're getting, a hood thrown over your face and, put on the back
guns
of a
pointed
car
at
or
you.
something. So,
And Karen says the one that scares me is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. Yeah.
yeah. And that movie really surprised me because it seems like, it's like they all get overwhelmed at once. Like, he just systematically takes them out just like one after another, like super fast. It's like they start, like start out, they meet the crazy hitchhiker and all that. And then it's like next thing you know, he's already got like two of them, one on the freezer, one on a meat hook. Uh, yeah. And of course, unfortunately, I think they're ruining the series because they're starting to do this whole, like, they're trying to do like a backstory on Leatherface and like the next generations, and yeah, just leave it alone. Like, just the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre was fantastic. The second one's I like the second one personally, but I think it was more geared to be more of a comedy horror. And the third one, I don't know exactly where it fits in as far as, because I mean, Leatherface supposedly dies in the second one. I mean, he gets blown up by a grenade. So I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody if you, for whatever reason, haven't seen it. So I'm kind of wondering where the third one comes in at. If it's like a retelling of the first, or I don't know.
Maybe someone picked up the chainsaw and carried on to the tradition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Like, like I said, I like it. Again, I like the first three are like just like super awesome. Like, I like them. And and there's a lot of people out there that seem to like the the remake.
Do you remember that movie Hotel Hell?
Yes.
I love that movie. I just thought about that one too. I remember growing up and watching that movie, and it would come on. We had cable, and anytime it would come on, man, I'd sit down and watch it. That was yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was like, yeah, this is actually one of the masks from the movie there, if you guys can see it.
Oh, that is creepy. Yeah, I remember that. And it was so creepy seeing those people that were buried up into their necks. They had their throats slit, and they were just like they couldn't talk. Oh man, that was so creepy and so scary.
Yeah, I mean, like, so the slasher genre, like, yeah, I mean, and it surprises me because I cosplay as Michael Myers at the horror cons a lot, and it really amazes me the amount of people that are terrified of Michael Myers. Like, I mean, you see tons of Jasons around, and Freddy's and things, but I don't know, Michael Myers, just like, people just like straight up are like terrified. And like, I have people all the time that'll run up to me and be like, "Hey, my girlfriend, she's terrified of Michael Myers," or my son over here, he's terrified of Michael Myers. Go up there, like, scare him or something. So, I go up there, and I'll kind of stand behind him and kind of do the slight head tilt there, looking at him. And yeah, and sometimes I'll just chase him around the the con floor just to mess with him. But and doing haunts are a blast. And I worked at one in Lexington, and I had a chainsaw, like an actual real chainsaw. Obviously, no chain on it, but I think it's kind of like it's the psychological effects of like when you rack a shotgun. Like, when you rack a shotgun, people are like, okay, like let's just chill out. Chainsaw is kind of the same way. You fire up a chainsaw, and if you're not sawing a tree, and you're in a dimly dark lit room, that's a psychological effect. Like, I had people like peeing themselves. I would get people trapped in a corner and just pleading for their life, and I mean, obviously, like I said, I've been on behind the scenes in a lot of like these haunts and things and these haunted houses and stuff, so I know I know the tricks of the trade. But so I came out of this little building that I was in, and there was a gentleman there and three other females, and he was like, that doesn't really scare us and everything. So I fired up a chainsaw and I took off running at them, and which actually freaked all four of them out. And I actually chased them out of the park, like down to the parking lot, just because they were freaked out by it. It's just a psychological effect, I believe. Like I said, it's like when you rack a shotgun or nails on a chalkboard kind of thing. It's like it makes you cringe.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of haunted houses, and the guys have used, the chainsaw with no chains, and I know it, but it's still kind of scary.
It's a startle factor, I think. So you expect it, it's going to happen. So your brain's already like, okay, we know they're going to do this. We know that there's going to be a jump scare here. Something is going to happen. Your heart's ready. Your adrenaline's pumping. Your fight or flight is ready to go. So I think that's what makes that even more scarier, is because it's coming, and your brain, no matter how much you tell your brain, it's just people in masks. It's just a prop. It's just this, just that.
It's all fake, right?
Yeah, but your brain's like, no, something is startling me. It scares me. And but like when I went to haunted houses, even as a kid, I remember my family. We went to Gatlinburg, or I guess Pigeon Forge, back when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9, I guess. And we went through this huge haunted house, and it's like 2 stories, and there was so many cool things in there. It was like a Frankenstein's monster room where they had the doctor was like, like working on the monster, and there was like lightning and everything coming in, and like the monster would set up on the table on the slab, and there was a Phantom of the Opera, and like it was in a ballroom, and like they were dancing around, the ballroom and things, and you would stand on the balcony and it would fall forward and it would catch with you. So like it give you the sensation like you were falling, but then it would catch. That just like fascinates me, and I'm like, oh, they've got a pressure plate here. This makes this go off. This thing right here causes a strobe light to come on. And my uncle's like, dude, like just be scared, enjoy it, And I'm like, I can't. Like, this fascinates me. Like, this is so neat. And so that was again one of those things that kind of got me into like fascinated with like the props, and like like you step on this and it makes this go off, or makes this sound, or steam shoots up or whatever. And and years ago we would actually discussed about we had our, I guess it was an old high school of ours in my hometown, and it was not being utilized. I mean, there was a company that was using it, but they were using like part of it. And so they had the rest of this entire school, this high school, it was, basically empty, it was abandoned. And so some friends of mine, we were actually looking at possibly like turning it to a haunted house, because it had a boiler room just like Freddy. It had this big steel sliding door like Leatherface, like so much potential. But unfortunately they sold it, so we scrapped the project and everything. But it was like, I mean, we had like the whole town was like backing us on this project. Like they were like, like, let's do it. Let's make a our own personal haunt that we can call our own. And a lot of folks in my hometown like are really big into horror, and So again, our friends, like, we all dress up and everything, and we'll go to Main Street. They have like a thriller dance up there, and and they have there's a local troupe of actors there that work in plays and things, and they dress up as zombies and they do the thriller dance, the Michael Jackson thriller dance. Super awesome to watch. And but we dress up like Michael Myers, Freddy, Jason, Pinhead, it, whatever, costumes we all have at that point in time. And we'll stand in one spot for like hours just taking pictures with people and just posing with them. And of course, we try to, like, like the youngsters and stuff, we try to like show them, we're not scary, we're just guys in masks, we're just in costume. And hopefully give them an appreciation of horror. If they can see this stuff's not really scary, it's all smoke and mirrors, it's makeup, it's latex masks, I mean, that's really incidentally how I got into it. I mean, I got to looking, like behind the scenes and reading monster magazines and seeing how these movies were made, and watching Tom Savini at work on the Friday the 13th, and just and watching, like, with like Night of the Living Dead. I got my first film book, and I was like, looking at like how they did the special effects, like bruises and like, the flesh like rotting off, and just all the kinds of cool stuff. It was so fascinating for me, and I guess, and that's why that I was never really scared, I guess, because I knew the story behind it, like I knew how the stuff was made and how it was done. So
Yeah, you mentioned zombies earlier. That's like my favorite genre. I love zombie stuff. And but if I ever have to wind up in a zombie apocalypse, I want the slow walking zombies. I don't want the runners.
yeah, yeah, honestly, if there's like Dawn of the Dead 2004 or 28 Days Later, like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go out swinging, but yeah, I'm done. Like, I don't run. Um, I haven't ran probably in years. I run my mouth a lot, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know it. Yeah, you're right. The Shamblers, but those are like, those are terrifying in themselves. But there was a movie that I watched, and my friends get tired of hearing me rant about it. But it was I found it on Amazon purely by accident. It was called Night Eats the World. And dude,
Okay.
the zombies in this, like the zombies in this movie are like, just, they're scary as hell. They don't make noise. And of course, they have different stages. You got the newly infected that are fast, and
Right.
they'll rush you real quick, and then you have the I guess the more um some more deceased, I guess, that are, their bodily functions are shutting down, and they're starting to shamble and shuffle along and stuff. But what unnerves me about these zombies is they don't make noise. They don't hiss, they don't growl, they don't like scream. They are literally mute. And like, the guy is like, and this, I have to admit, this is a jump scare that got me, and that's very, very rare. But there's a scene, the guy's like, there's bars on the windows, and the guy's like walking by, and the zombie just reaches in and like tries to grab him, and and there's no noise coming out. You can see its jaw moving, like it's trying to it's trying to make noise, but nothing comes out. And like, that really freaked me out. I'm like, God, like, that zombie type right there would scare the hell out of me, because there literally could be one in your bathroom and you never know it. Like, you just walk around past, it is making noise other than if it knocks something over. But yeah, I recommend that one if you get a chance to watch it. It's on I know it's on Amazon Prime. It might be on Tubi. I think it was like last week. I know Tubi switches their lineups, but if you get a chance to watch it, it's called Night Eats the World. I mean, it's
Okay.
a really, I mean, and that's for anybody else listening. If you guys like zombie movies, definitely check that one out. And um, that was I like, again, I watch zombie movies all the time. I mean, good, bad, or ugly. I've seen, I can safely say back when in the 80s and 90s, I had seen about every zombie movie that had been out at that point in time. But nowadays, there's so many that I don't know that I could actually keep up with them all. I try to watch what I can, where I can, but um, and I'll stumble across a few of them. Like when I go to like our local, we have a place in Lexington called Half Price Books, and you find all kinds of cool little horror movies and that. Like, I mean, I found zombie movies that I didn't even know existed. Just on the shelf there for like $1. And I actually found Pieces, which is to me is more of an equivalent of a Italian Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Great movie if you get a chance to watch it. But I was surprised I actually found that there. I was like, wow, this is kind of to me is more of an obscure movie. I mean, I've seen it on like Amazon Prime, but it's not one you see out for sale in places.
Right. Do you like the Last of Us, or have you seen that one?
Yes, and I I played the games too, and so obviously I was already well versed in what was going to happen, what was happening, but yeah, no, I mean I think they really did a really great job with it. I mean it was the zombies, they're infected. They look. That's one of my quests now is to get one of those masks. Like I want one of the what do you call it, the fungus masks or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
That's one of the next ones I plan on picking up if I ever can find one. I found one at Horror Hound, but it was like $175, and I was like, it's a little rich for my blood, so I'll wait till they come down in price. But yeah, I unfortunately didn't get to play the second game yet. But the first one, yeah, it was very, very intense. Like just lots of jump scares, lots of a lot of stealth. You can't run and gun. So I think the series, the games, so they were both great. And I think they came out around the same time the Days Gone game came out. I don't know if did you play Days Gone at all?
No, I haven't.
It's it boasts that you could have literally hundreds of zombies on the screen at one time, and they're like the 28 Days Later. Like they'll climb over things, they'll like bust through walls, they'll chase you, and they're relentless. And of course eventually you'll tire out because you are human, and you have muscle fatigue and toxins in your body that cause you to slow down. These things don't, and they'll keep chasing you until either you can get on your motorcycle and get out of there, or find some way to slow them down. Very intense game. If you like the fast paced zombie types, that's a very intense game. Storyline's fairly mediocre, but the zombies actually look really, really good in it.
So what about you, man? What do you have going on? What are you working on currently that you can talk about?
So yeah, so we're working on a project. It's homegrown here in Kentucky. It's called Midas Cove, and the background is set. We have it's in the Appalachia area. There's a fictitious town called Midas Cove, and a lot of sinister things going on there. A lot of it's got on the surface this appearance of being like a nice place that you could raise your kids. It's a quiet small town, but there's a lot more sinister things lurking beneath the surface there. Got a great cast. We got a lot of local talent, and like I said, I've done one shoot so far, and everybody's been super awesome. They've been just really we've had a blast. We've really gotten into it. We actually found out the director had informed us that we actually have a mansion for the next shoot. It's like a $15 million mansion. We have like a Dodge Viper, I think, for one of the scenes that we're going to be shooting, and I mean just a lot of cool stuff. We've had a lot of people that's really helped us out, and with letting us use their property, and and we're gaining momentum. Like I said, we've got a GoFundMe out there, and if anybody's interested, I can share it. Like I said, we're still looking for like I said, we're looking for local talent, to help us out with whatever. I mean, if as far as we're still working on production, trying to get try to get more people involved, trying to work with some of the local municipal place, the municipalities, if that's a word, to try to maybe like start getting more locations to shoot in. It's going to be a series. We're working currently. We're trying to get it like on Amazon Prime and Tubi, but we're hoping maybe that we can maybe throw it out to Netflix and see what they say about it, so we could really get it out in everybody's face right now. But yeah, no, it's a great series. Like I said, and the cast has like been super awesome to work with, and I've been super excited about the whole thing. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't say a whole lot right now, but yeah, it's gonna be great once we get really get going with it, and we're already starting to lay the foundations, for more episodes. And my character I play is Lorenzo. I'm a bodyguard to one of the bigger sinister drug dealer types there, and it's great because I'm a strong silent type in the show, so I just have to stand there and look menacing and threaten people. So, which is probably not really different from anything I do in real life. It's just that I can actually get away with it on film this time. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So what's the GoFundMe? Do you have that information? If not, you can just give it to me and I'll post it in the description. Either way.
Yeah, no, I'll get that out there. I think they just started it not too long ago. So I think it was done fairly recently. So yeah, we were trying we're trying to raise funds to get get more locations and get more sponsorships and things. And I'm working with I'm working on production right now with production teams. Like I said, I'm trying to make some calls and things to see if I can possibly get get on Netflix. So that's something we're all like really excited about, because I mean, of course, so we're happy with Tubi and Amazon Prime, because those are great streaming platforms. They're free.
Right.
Well, sort of. Amazon Prime is if you pay the fee, but you got get the gist of it. But and because we're also hoping that maybe when things we rock out Midas Cove and things really start going well with that, we can start working on other projects. And I got a few other casting calls with some other projects right now, and it's just again some local things here that we're shooting. Not horror related, which is fine. I prefer horror movies, but I'm not going to turn down anything that could potentially be lead to something else cooler.
Right. Yeah.
I've got a lot of director friends and things on my Facebook there, and I would love to shoot with them sometime. Like I would love to chance to be put in some of their movies. I know a couple of them are doing zombie movies and stuff, but unfortunately, it's not my area, so I would have to I'd have to travel, and that's kind of hit or miss sometimes. You have to get a hotel room and try to fly, or if it's in driving distance and all that. So it's definitely it's you got to be dedicated to your craft for sure.
Mindy is here. She says, "Hello, I'm with Midas Cove. I'm on props and an extra in the show. So grateful. Thanks for joining, Mindy. Thanks everybody else for joining too. I haven't given you guys a shout out, but thanks for all you guys participating in the chat. Yeah. So, like, what kind of advice would you give someone who wants to get into this industry, whether it's regardless of the genre, they want to get into the industry? What kind of advice would you give them?
As far as like the acting thing, I kind of fell into on accident. I was actually brought on to the first movie I was in, which was Sharks of the Corn by Tim Ritter. Tim actually did a lot of low budget stuff back in the 80s and 90s, and he did one of my favorite films, and which is called Killing Spree. I don't know. It was on Tubi at one point in time. If you get a chance to watch it, it's a crazy movie. So I was really surprised when Tim actually was like, he was shoot. He lives in Kentucky, and he was starting to shoot more movies. So obviously I was like, that'd be great. I'd love to get into doing that, working with him. And Tim's kind of a legend in the underground scene there. A lot of the, like I said, the low budget, slasher and horror. So initially I was signed on just to be like do props and like special effects, play monsters because that's what I've always wanted to do as a kid. Bigfoot, for instance, aliens, whatever. But since the budget was so limited, we didn't have, and most of it was a volunteer basis. And so a couple people that we were hoping were going to show up for the project didn't. So Tim's like, hey, here's a script. I need you to sit here on this blanket. I need you to act like the drunk boyfriend. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't remember signing up for this, but I was like, I thought, what the hell? I'll give it a shot, So as terrible as it is, my acting, I was trying to act like I'm drunk. But what was great about Tim, though, Tim let me improvise on a lot of the dialogue. So because, I mean, literally, there's like pages and pages of dialogue that I'm supposed to remember in like 10 minutes. So I told him, I was like, I said, how about we do it this way? I said, let me be me. Like, let me act like I'm drunk if I was me and say the goofball stuff that I would say if I was drunk. Because people that know me, people that are going to watch this movie because I'm in it, are going to know that, okay, that's not really how he is, in person. So I thought, let me get more genuine. Let me get more into the role. And so eventually I think I ended up playing like 8 or 9 roles in the movie. We have a parody of Amazon called amazing.com. And I was a delivery guy for amazing.com. I played a commando. I played a redneck. I was the Bigfoot, of course. I was the alien shark creature at the end of the movie. I did like the puppeteering for some of the sharks and things. So some of the goofy scenes where you see the sharks, like coming in eating, like that's me. So I mean, I probably did a lot more. I just, like I said, a lot of it was just, hey, Jason, this guy didn't show up today, so can you do this? Do this scene, or can you handle this? And, well, yeah, sure, why not? And then we did a short for Nolan Farmer. It was called Catnado. And so with that one, I got a little bit more relaxed. I was a little bit more looser and able to act more like normal, I guess. Or at least it felt more normal. And I actually get killed by a cat in that one. We literally had no budget on that one. I mean, like zero budget. It was like we just did. We had a fake cat, like a puppet. Corn syrup, red food coloring, blood. A leaf blower to simulate wind blowing around, like really, really low budget, like no budget stuff. So, but the fun part about it, the thing is really, as far as getting into it, is to jump on some of these folks that's already in the industry that can introduce you to people. It just, just trying to, like if somebody that's into the industry, like, so go to cons, do some networking. I worked with some of the cons and things like Days of the Dead and Horror Hound and stuff, and made some connections and things. Made friends on Facebook with some folks, and just started meeting people, and like they would say, well, we're shooting the movie in Lexington, or we're shooting a movie here or there or wherever. If it's remotely close, I'm like, hey, I would like to try to be in that, if possible. And and you may start. It's more likely it may not be a paid gig. I mean, you might actually be working for free, but it's fun. I mean, I do it just because I enjoy doing it, and if I get paid doing it, that's awesome too. But I really just enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend like networking and stuff. I mean, if and if folks are interested, I mean, they can meet up with me, and I can point them in the right directions, and introduce them to people to talk to. Unfortunately, there are some parasites out there that you have to watch out for. In the industry, you got people that that want you to pay to be in their movies and things, and they may never cast you or they just disappear. So we're starting to form a stronger network with that and trying to figure out these people, like who these individuals are and like who to stay away from, and who is safe to work with. So but like I said, do your research on people. If there's somebody that you're interested in working with, do some research on them. Have they, ask around. Have they had a falling out with any actors or all their actors? Has anybody got anything negative really to say about them? But again, much like any industry, there is unfortunately there's mudslinging. So there are good people that get their names dragged through the mud. But I just research people. I mean, if I'm not sure, I don't know them, or I don't have four people saying, "Oh yeah, this person's good." They're great to work with. I'll research it, and watch projects they've been on and worked with and things. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if somebody is interested in it, I mean, like I said, they can talk to me. I can point them in the right direction. I can introduce them to people. Um, Social media is great. I mean, you could really network with people on there, and even if you're not in Kentucky, I mean, even if you're looking, I mean, I know people that shoot all over the United States: Florida, Georgia, Arizona, New Mexico, New York, California. I'm sure that there might be somebody filming something in Nebraska for all I know. I just I probably haven't heard about it yet. So
Yeah, yeah. So what do you got coming up after Midas Cove? Do you have anything else planned for later on this year?
like I said, I'm talking to some folks about maybe that there was a couple of slasher movies, and I was actually slated to be in a couple of films back in 2019, and I got sick and had some surgeries and stuff, so I unfortunately couldn't do it. But I come to find out one of the films that I was supposed to be in, I was actually going to play a biker. They're actually shooting a sequel to it, so I'm talking with some of the folks with that production to maybe be in the second one, which is super awesome. And yeah, I'm trying to maybe hopefully get maybe find somebody that's doing a slasher film and actually get to play, like do my own rendition of Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees or something, and come up with something unique. I like to have make a unique mask for it, and kind of do my own um weird mannerisms, because have Michael Myers got the head tilt, and trying to develop my own type of character with that. I would love to do something like that. It's like been my goal is to do zombie movies and to be a slasher, to be like the next Michael Myers.
Yeah. Michael Myers, he had the best sit up, like from a laying down situation. If he was laying on the ground and he would just sit up, I don't think anybody did it better than Michael Myers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is just that he's so damn creepy because he's just like the mask is so expressionless. What is this dude doing behind this mask? Is he laughing? Is he angry? What's up? Like you don't know, and he's just so expressionless. And and you can say the same thing with Jason Voorhees, but Michael Myers has been pretty solid about not revealing what he looks like under that mask. Well, okay, with the exception of these last few movies, but I don't count those. I'm thinking like you briefly see him in part one when she rips the mask off, you kind of see him briefly, but the rest of him, you really don't see what he looks like. He keeps the mask on, and that's what makes it more intense. You don't know.
Well, man, we already went past our hour. I had like so many more questions for you, and I'd like to get you back on the show and go through all those. But you have anything you want to say? Do you want to promote anything? I know you had a YouTube. Do you not do that anymore?
Yeah, I've been actually, I kind of took a hiatus from it for a little while, and I'm planning on getting back into it eventually. But yeah, I was doing mask reviews and
Right.
slash movie reviews, beard care products and things. So yeah, it's the bearded weirdo is my YouTube page, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, you have a great opening, by the way, too. I love that old '70s style. It's great, man. I was like, why didn't I think of that?
the grindhouse. Yeah, that's what
Mhm.
I love, those old like kung fu '70s grindhouse type movies and stuff. So I thought I was like that intro is just fantastic. So I
Yeah.
had to throw that on there. But Yeah, like I said, I mean, maybe if we can, if like I said, if you would be so kind to grace me to be back on the show, maybe get some more of the cast of Midas Cove on there, and we can,
Yeah.
there's like I said, there's awesome group of people there, and we could probably go a little bit more in depth about the project, and and they could explain a little bit more in depth, and maybe by that point in time, we could actually have more episodes shot and could go a little more in depth into it.
Okay.
um,
Great.
but yeah, like I said, we got a lot of big things coming. Like I said, we got this big mansion shoot that we're doing, and we like I said, we got sports cars and all kinds of cool stuff in it. So we're excited. We're ready to do it.
Well, cool beans, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. You did great. It was awesome. Like I said, I got a ton of more questions I wish I could have asked you, but we're way over the hour already. But um, yeah, I'd love to have you back on the show, and everyone in the chat, man. You guys did great too, man. I really enjoyed all your comments and stuff. And so Karen here says airport shot coming up this weekend. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yeah,
Yeah, man.
I'll be I'll be my usual menacing self in that one. I think so. I actually have a line in this one, so
Okay.
so I actually won't be the weird, mean, silent bodyguard type. So
Cool. Well, thanks again. And like I said, man, send me that GoFundMe information, and I'll add it into the description so people can help out if they want to help out. And you have anything else you want to send me, man? I also have, so I have two pages. One is Beyond the Woodline podcast page, which is where I just show the podcast, and the other one is a fan page, and that page is where people like yourself can just go and just promote your product and your stuff and whatever you've got going on.
definitely, like yeah, we love to network, and if like I said, if there's something we could do to to promote your show, and then like I said, you guys can we could get together, and we can work on doing
Yeah,
some cross
definitely.
promotion stuff. That'd be great. Like I'm all about cross promoting and promoting
Yeah.
others. And
Dude, I'm all about just helping out good people who, and dude, you're a good dude, I can tell. So I love to help you out however I can help you out. So
yeah, definitely. Like I said, yeah, we'll see. You can't count us in. We'll help out any way we can.
well, cool beans, man. Hold on real quick. I'm gonna end the show here, and like I said, everyone else, thanks a lot for joining. I really appreciate your comments and you guys participating. You always make the show much better when you guys do that. And I will see you guys next Friday. I have Kyle is haunted on the show next Friday, so you guys tune in for that. And like I said, you guys have a good night. And hold on real quick, Jason.